Doing beautiful day.
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
A new car.
It's sitting out there with the CD brand.
It'll be the shadow one.
The one with the shovel in the back.
Right. Exactly.
Kathy, do you know how to use this?
I'll be like, no.
It looks good.
Chuck is here too, so.
How's it going, everybody?
I think this is the second time we've had to visit each other since you did.
Chuck.
Yeah. Get my face to face.
Do.
Been busy.
Yes.
Not to worry.
Get your things under here.
All right. Are we ready to get started? Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you, Chuck.
You can hear me, but I don't think anybody else can.
They're not.
Are you on mute? Get hearing some.
I can hear you, Chad.
Daryl, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
You don't want to say like sign.
Okay, we ready to go ahead and get started?
Yes.
Okay, let's go ahead and call the 76 Entertainment Community Improvement District for February 26, 2025 meeting to order. Let's see, Billy, can you do prayer for us, please?
Sure. Father, we are thankful for just loving us, taking care of us and watching us. We are thankful just for the blessing put upon not only to this country, the city, and state, stuff. We just thank you for just continue to be in the midst of our lives. Father, we come to you today just so that you continue to bless our team, that we will make the right decision. We pray for wisdom and direction. And again, we thank you for everyone here today who's so gifted in many, many ways that they are participating the privilege to serve in this capacity. And I pray all this in one wonderful name. Amen.
Thank you, Billy. Paul, can you do roll call?
Sure. So Chuck is here, Brian,
He's here.
Brian's here, Mayor is down there.
Yep.
Mike. Mike is absent.
Yeah, he sent a message saying that he would try to join remotely, but may not be able to.
Yep, and I don't see him on the big screen. Billy is here, Kathy.
Here.
And Alex.
Here.
Okay.
Let's go to the next item on the agenda. First item on the agenda, approval of minutes for January 29th, 2025. Has everybody had a chance to review those?
Yeah.
If so, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved. Second.
Okay, first by the mayor, second by Billy. Any further discussion? All in favor, state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay. CID financials.
We ended 2024 with total revenue of $5.6 million. $5.2 million of that came from sales tax collections. $388,000 was interest income. We ended expenses at $7.3 million in total expenses for the 2024 fiscal year. To start off January of 2024, we brought in $467,000 in sales tax collections and only expended $45. You can see on the sales tax collection sheet for January, this was a 10% decrease over January last year. But then with February's revenues, this came back up to 2% over sales tax collections last year at the same time. And we ended 2024 at a negative 0.3% over last year's sales tax collection revenue. So we came in a little bit under the prior sales tax collections in 2024. Are there any questions about sales tax collections or expenses for the CID had in December or January?
Anybody have any questions?
I was trying to catch up with her, she was so fast. I was trying to open all this. I don't.
No questions? Let's move on to the project financing update. Todd.
Yeah, good afternoon, Chuck and board. Really nothing to report here. We're, as we mentioned last month, and pretty much in a holding pattern until we have a little more clarity around the project and the bidding timeline. The one thing that has been moving along in the background, and I see that Sarah Granath with Gilmore and Bell is on as well. There will need to be some slight alterations to the cooperation agreement between the CID and the city. And I know she's been marshaling those comments along with the city. So I would expect, and Sarah, feel free to jump in here, but those are items that would need to be approved before we would move forward with the bond issue. But we should be able to have something for you to consider at next month's board meeting or April at the latest.
Yeah, thank you, Todd. I'll jump in. I would agree that I'm hopeful that we can have an amendment brought forward at the next board meeting that hopefully is agreeable to both the city and the CID. So we are moving forward on that end.
And Chuck, at a high level, really all this does is make the cooperation agreement look more like what we would expect to see with an entity that is getting ready to issue bonds and have publicly offered bonds. So it kind of syncs up really the draft bond documents that Sarah put together a couple months ago. It kind of syncs that up with the cooperation agreement.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Todd or Sarah? Hearing none. Thanks, Todd. Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Chuck.
Let's move on to the update of easement acquisition status and the need for project design changes and timeline or budget.
Sure thing. So get this started off. I handed the sheet back out. Starting from the top, Twinkle in, Matt went out. He said he had all the signatures ready to go. There was one missing signature page, so that's in the mail from Illinois, and we should receive that soon. We had a meeting with Howell Garn yesterday. Our municipal law firm turned it back around, and we have one little addition to do with Jeremy's group, and that should be back to them for signature, and they had all 6 of their attorneys online, so I think we have the right people to get that signed, and they promised a 5-day turnaround from there. So that's good news. Mr. Grocott, we sent some stuff to him on 129 or 25. Also got an email back from him on 218 that they were gonna have a meeting, but the weather was unfavorable. Kevin should be meeting with him, which is the owner, this week, and so he is the one holder of the game, or the ones where we're not like, hey, they're signed in the mail, ready to go. We did have a little bit of a change. Originally it said 128.25. The bottom 2 that are there, that they were in the mail. That's the Track and Extreme theme park, that there was a revision that was in the mail. And so that's under review right now, and expect that turned back around back to them and then executed very shortly. So everything's a thumbs up and a go. And the one person that we have out there, and not a positive, yes, it's definitely happening. And so we hope to work on that a little bit this month and be done.
Who's the one we're missing?
It'd be Mr. Grocott's properties or Kevin's properties. I think Kevin's the actual owner of those. So that's the Dickens Craft Mall and the Bacon properties that are up there. So Kathy's been in contact with Matt's been in contact with us and just whether people's timelines haven't, and we also met with them and did some revisions over the last month to their plans. We believe that they're at a good point that the owner has to give a once more glance over and his actual authority to sign with that. So super excited. We could be sitting here next month saying they're all done, or be really darn close with one person that holds the key at the very end.
That's great. Great job, Michael and Cheryl and Matt, everybody. It's fantastic.
So thinking ahead, when we do have all these, what's the very next step?
Sure, so Jeremy can speak to that in a little bit too. So the very next step of that is the bid documents, make sure everything's locked in, right? So roughly a 30-day period there for her to get all the bid documents, everything reviewed, and then put it out to bid in another 30 days from there. So within the fastest would be within 60 days, you would know if you have a bidder or not from the point of go. And that's everybody's sign, because you can't stamp, seal, and close everything till every minutia. I mean, things are still moving ever so slightly, like for instance, with Olive Garden, something moved about 4 feet. So that's okay, and that's all right. Anything we can do to get a signature. So
if you went through that timeline, you would say, if we went out to bid, it's conceivable to go out to bid April 1, bids back May 1? Or am I 1 month off?
one month off, so like 60 total days.
So I just wanted everybody to know that's kind of where he's talking about being placed at June 1. Then you're saying June 1
You would know.
for being ready to approve the bid, having a contractor and going
June, one,
Beginning.
we would expect that based on this to have actual bid documents.
Right.
Yeah.
Bidders back, so you would have qualified or unqualified bidders. Put it, that would be the very fastest.
Yes.
Turning and burning.
Is that a bid selected or bids being reviewed on June first?
It's there in your hands.
It's-
reviewed.
Okay.
So like
So then
the
the
review,
review
normally you
process-
know if you, so roughly a week.
Okay, that's all.
So Jeremy reviews it a couple days, gives a recommendation to the city does the internal review and make sure to select if there's any bid alternatives and whichever one that works, couple memos and ready to roll.
Hey, Michael, I want
Yes,
to, I want to just add just one caveat to that is that we do have the part of the project that is funded, the median pedestrian crossings. That section, those documents actually have to go to MoDOT. And so we could still advertise, we could still get, everything back in place, but MoDOT actually has to give their blessing. We have to ask for concurrence of award prior to being able to bring that to the city for actual award. So just an extra step on some part of the plans there.
We can't do that now.
No, actually, we can't, I mean, they're in review at MoDOT right now. But we can't bid, we don't want to bid that separately, from our, there's the efficiency of scale. So again, we want all of that to be one set of documents.
So MoDOT already has.
MoDOT has those plans for review. Yes, sir. They sure do.
Thank you. Thank you.
How does this coincide with the bonding as well?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question, Chuck. And I mean, I think that knowing that we'll want to begin to move the bond rating process along. And I think be in a position, if you're gonna know on June 1, thereabouts, you're gonna be accepting bids. I think we want to be ready to go into the market right probably shortly thereafter, once we know what those bid prices are, with the thought that we're closed, I'm gonna say by the end of June. And then I suspect, and Jeremy, correct me if I'm wrong, but at some point, the city will have a notice to proceed. And I think we'd like to have the bonds sold prior to when the city would issue a notice to proceed.
Agreed.
Yes, sir. Yes, I would say that you are correct. That's right.
Okay,
So we'll announce it on Facebook that we're planning on starting construction July 1st. That's probably safe, isn't it? Just want to
Yeah.
get it, people.
yeah, let me know how that works out for you, starting construction July 1.
I didn't say I was gonna put in 2025.
Make sure it's France and Buzz.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. That's good news. That's very good news. That will really bring this to a head.
And that's something to think about too, as we take that out to bid, if there's a timeline you would like to tell your contractors that you would like them to consider starting on or before, similar to some of the other stuff that we've done. You know, maybe next meeting say, hey, in your special provisions, say start date is this for this many months. So this will be a longer process than most, but.
Yeah.
Well, if it's, hey, we really want you guys to consider starting January 1st, it is what it is, or whatever it becomes with the board.
That has to be part of bid.
It does, it's a special provision,
When we put out the bid.
but if you try to turn it, if you try to put it out and then turn it back around and say, hey, by June 1st, we want everything back and then we're gonna accept it, we want you to start July 1st. Like most of them will be like, too close and we're already spoken for, right? We're already at the dance with somebody else. So it'll be a little bit of a time delay between that.
So has this committee had the discussion of when would be an ideal time to start?
We had a long time ago.
Yeah, I know.
So.
But we have not with these new perimeters, and that's why I wanted that initial discussion,
I was
so that,
just-
because I don't think we are back in play, and I think you need to.
I just want to know if starting in the summer is okay, starting in the fall is okay, would we prefer to start in the winter?
I personally like a fall that they can start working, because as you see, winter time sometimes clogs the wheel. So you're not multiple seasons, right? But, you know, businesses get scared at that, but at the same time, you're looking at quite a bit of infrastructure that's underneath, you know, we've talked about a lot underneath the ground that needs to start to get moving around. You know, the pretty or the jewels of it or the stuff that everybody sees above ground would be perfect sliding in late winter, early spring and be ready to go. But Jeremy could probably speak to that a little bit.
Yeah,
I mean, they could work outside the right of way easily, or in our right of way, but outside the roadway.
Yeah. I mean, there will be, you know, we've talked about this before, guys, but just as a reminder, you know, this project will, you know, this will take all of a year to get completed. And so regardless of when we start, you know, we'll be doing substantial completion and such about a year from, you know, from that day. Now, that means with paving and everything, right? So bear in mind, there are lots of levels of construction. And as Michael is pointing out, I too would be in favor of seeing, you know, a late summer, early fall, you know, start. And to be honest with you, I don't think that's going to be a lot to ask. And so if you would consider, you know, the conversation from that perspective, I think that would be wise based on where we are. And the timing, I think we might be actually headed in exactly the right place for that to happen. When contractors bring us bids, they're going to make those bids good for 60 days. That's it. We can only hold the bids good for 60 days. And so, you know, from the time that we open it, you know, they'll only guarantee their numbers, you know, for a period of time, that 60 days. And so we might actually be just perfectly in the right time frame.
Well, we talk about summer like it's busy for 3 solid months, but the end of August gets light and September is traditionally lighter too. So if there's a lot that happens in that initial entry into construction, that's mid-August and September is a pretty good time for Branson for 76. Deal with that.
I will also put this on the table. Depending on who responds, you know, what contracting, you know, folks are out there and, you know, are going to respond to bids. You know, there are companies that may come in with a plan to have multiple crews going. So you may see activity in the corridor, not just starting in one spot, moving slowly forward. You may actually see activity starting in a couple of places, moving together. And that wouldn't be all bad. We would see it perhaps an accelerated construction schedule. And I think there could be some great benefit to that. You all would certainly enjoy seeing this project get completed a little bit faster. And there are contractors out there that are large enough that they can do that sort of thing. So, everybody's going to come with a plan, and the more flexible we are, the more we can talk about the benefits of getting it done a little quicker, or allowing for those sorts of things. The better the bids will be, the more competitive the bids will be.
Just a thought, and Chuck, I'm trying to stay on topic here. Kathy just informed us that for the contract we have for our downtown, she's offered them to work 24 hours a day, so they could do some of the work at night where they're not obstructed by the traffic and that. And that seemed to go over very well, so obviously the benefit is less disturbance time and a quicker completion time. And in some ways, a benefit to the contractors. You don't get any hotels down there where people are sleeping.
So where are you guys in the downtown sports schedule to start?
April 1.
Or you guys are already got all big and electric contractor and then? What's the time, how long is the process?
October 15th. Hopefully sooner. That's proposal.
Okay, back on track. Sorry, Chuck.
All good. Okay, any further discussion on this topic?
Just two questions on the intersection of 165 and 76. Is there a time frame on that yet?
Oh, we're gonna go over that shortly.
I know you're late. I'm just thinking how that relates because you're gonna be tearing up 76 now.
There's a great possibility if we get consensus from you all that those plans will be there and released at the same time.
Okay, and so,
That's they're at 90% waiting on some of your direction on the wow factors.
so just the timing that to consider there. Also, the section, segment 1, there's much less businesses to disrupt if you start in the fall on that point there. But, my belief is now that you're gonna be disrupting traffic at some point all the way through there. And so however we can make that the least disruptive and get going on it, but also, if, like I said, section 1, there's a big area there that if you start in September, October, they may go both ends of it, but just a couple thoughts, so.
So what I would do is start August 18th. And it's gonna take them a little bit to mobilize and start their pre-work. That's 2 weeks before Labor Day. You probably won't screw up Labor Day weekend at all. But then you're gonna get all of September.
I guess the real question is going to be related to what is the pre-work and what all is going to be involved with that. Is it going to be going out doing surveying, all that stuff prior to getting started? I mean, that's kind of the big question. And how this is all going to play out, or are they going to move straight in with heavy equipment, start digging up the roads and everything associated? But we'll figure that out more over the next couple of months to be able to help with that schedule. Because if the pre-work doesn't disrupt traffic, I would be in favor of an August 1 start and then bringing the heavy equipment in, like you were saying, after the second week of August and start digging in there. Because I understand Labor Day is a big weekend, but if we can get that extra couple of weeks, I think there's a big benefit to it. Just my opinion.
Actually, depending on where you guys start anyway.
Well, you'll have those 2 weeks on the back end, which are gonna be less busy than you are on the front end. So on the back end, it's okay to move back.
Yeah.
That's why I try to not disrupt Labor Day week.
Jeremy said it's a year project, so it sure be nice to have Christmas of 26 not being disrupted.
Or in fall.
Yeah, fall of Christmas, yeah.
Or the summer.
Go for it.
Like it's raining.
It's just exciting that it's gonna maybe get underway. I mean, it's
Yeah.
long time coming.
Yeah, Steve, if they are worth their salt though, the last part of the project is a whole lot less disruptive than the front part. Okay, you gotta have that disruptive window in a certain time frame when they're digging those 10 foot deep duck bank trenches. And once you get those back in, then the above ground stuff is not disruptive to the traffic flow.
Well, I can tell you from our experience, with the Wax Museum, when they were doing segment 3, we were actually pretty impressed with how they were able to control everything, monitor the guests, being able to walk, created the borders for
Yeah.
people to be able to get access. Our parking spaces or our driveway accesses were affected, very limited during that process. And it went a lot smoother than what we thought it was gonna go. So
I agree.
I think being able to work with the contractors understanding the understanding the livelihood of all the businesses being based on tourist traffic and being able to communicate that and coordinate with them is gonna be beneficial through this process. So, but more to come. We'll hammer through it over the next couple of months for sure. So it's getting exciting. Let's move on to the utility agreements. Michael.
So I presented this to you all way back when. So we have a couple revisions that are there. Liberty Utilities, when we got down to the July 31st, like where are we at, making sure that people aren't over expanding, that they wanted to pursue moving stuff around in a different area. It ended up not working to the plan. It just couldn't fit in the corridor, and the requirements for spacing just made it astronomically expensive. So they have finally resubmitted their numbers. That Liberty Utilities and White River Electric, as you see on the sheet that's before you, definitely have design costs built into theirs at some point or another. The design costs went up because it's going to be a little bit more complicated for them, but the construction costs went down. So these are now so we've kind of gone through 3 iterations that are brought to this board, just for acknowledgement that we've received them. Those agreements are between the city and the utility companies, so we're disrupting theirs. They get a right to say where their stuff goes. The actual agreements that each of the utility companies and their lawyers sent over are in our lawyers' spot right now, and then they'll go over to our board of aldermen for approval. But I thought it was important, since the funding of this comes from this board, is to present it to you and talk to you about it. Overall, by asking them for a couple different things in the bottom corner, we saved almost $250,000. We haven't even put anything, we haven't even scratched the paper yet. We've just had very long, in-depth conversations about things. So we went the right direction. We believe that they all have the right intention. To remind everybody that's here, that Summit Natural Gas is no cost. They move their stuff all on their own. They're responsible for their own. White River Connect is the fiber company that wants to be in our duct banks, and there'll be an agreement going forward once they want to pop in there and it's completed. But before then, there's no agreement. Show Me Technology, Brightspeed are companies that are already providing internet services that are on there. And then, of course, we have 2 electric utility companies that are there that have the prices, which is Liberty and White River, which is not normal for a community to have 2 different ones in one little spot. That's where they cross over. And then, of course, Optimum. And that will be going to the Board of Aldermen once it's approved by legal, and it seems correct. And each one kind of wrote it a little bit different, and they're trying to wrangle them in a little bit. So that's the update for that. And each one requires some type of money down first. And I want to say Liberty Utilities requires 50% of the design costs down first. Right, yeah. So there'll be a little bit of money once we do sign these. So they have notice of adjustment to Jeremy, which says, hey, I need this moved over because I have the intention of doing this. They've all spent quite a bit of time staring at the plans. And then now I'll go to their engineers to say, how do you actually feed the wires and how do you feed the transformers and what actually makes sense. So they have their spot carved out where they want to be. And their electrical engineers will, civil engineers will take a look at things. Answering
Is the
questions.
White River Connect part of the White River Electric now? Because I know they're the Wi-Fi company, right? So they're not doing anything?
So there's no charge because
there's no charge.
they want to come in.
Yeah.
So, and since they don't have any, we are only paying to move existing facilities.
Okay.
And so that was kind of the original delay. So they gave us, in July, they gave us original construction estimate, and then there was some thought of, hey, is everybody not expanding their empire, right, on the city's tower? So we had asked them to sign an affidavit, which gave us some different numbers, and then Liberty Utilities was like, hey, let's look at a couple different options with us, and we ran a 6-month marathon of all the way around, all the different ways back to where we were.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, but I want to be able to shout about this if I can. The $250,000 in savings is the difference between the original estimates that we got in July.
Yep.
And where the estimates are now.
Yep.
But we went from 2.8 million to 3 million, so the totals don't go down.
That's because this column here is total design and construction, or design isn't in there.
Oh, so it would have been the 3.
So you got 399, 781, 81, that's added.
Okay, all right, perfect, thank you, I just want to make sure I understand. Yeah, awesome.
Oh, just wait till you read them all. I'll be saying good job to you. There's a whole lot of things in there. But
Okay, anything further on the utility agreements? Okay. Let's move on to the gateway renderings for 165 and 76.
so
I'll try to share the screen if possible.
So we sent out to the board a little bit earlier this week, but we're gonna make sure we share it as a visual that's here. Based on your notes last time, the engineers of record have come. Have come back with some drawings, but based on some of the things that. I know you really care about the technicals of where the lights go and the timing of it. You need. So they give us a couple different versions that are in here, and Cheryl can kind of scroll down. So that's the overall top down looking. This was the one that had it above in the air, but not going over the intersection. Scroll down one page. There's a rendering from afar, how it wraps up with kind of the trees, and they did work in the American Eagle and the American flag, which is very interesting. So next one down is a little bit closer, and so this is option one. They went back 3 different options with you based on the comments that you had. And so this is the most expensive because you have stuff that's above ground, midway, and then to the ground that's there. Next one's just above, showing from up top what you'll see, and you kind of lost some of that center stuff that's there, but you kept the above look to it where you're still highlighting the businesses that are behind there.
Chuck and Brian, can you see the screen?
No, I can't. I'm looking at the document that was sent to me.
Gotcha.
Can't see the screen?
No,
The shared screen, is it?
I've got the email up too.
Sorry about that, guys. How can you see it?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Perfect. So we'll scroll back up to the top since this was recorded really quick. So
anybody ever wanted to come back and look at it, so. Your first option there, which is your most expensive option, stuff above ground, midline and below ground in that. As you can see here, kind of close up of it is the eagles, rock sculptures, an American flag and some verbiage that's in there. That's the most expensive. Yeah, this is the second option that kind of leaves a little bit to be desired that's there.
I think we do that on purpose, by the way.
Sure. No different than walking on a car dealership lot.
Right, the limited is parked up front and the Eagle is in the back, right? So totally understood. So I just need that, so. And then option three, which is super viable, I think. It is the least expensive, but it's kind of got the rock look to it along with the flag and a Branson that's there. And it's to me, I would love to hear your all feedback.
You say what's the pricing difference? Significant?
Significantly different between each one.
Do we have a budget for it already, or do we not know? When you say most expensive, is it within our budget?
It's whatever your budget is that you set for it. So the
So we don't
creative
have-
is from this board, from taxpayers' money that's there above the ground. The city on this project is undertaking it to get it going a little bit faster with the signalized intersection, but as far as the creative above ground and taking care of the sidewalks and stuff like that we've had discussions with before is there. We had also originally, not to muddy the waters, but had tapped or touched some of the money for MoDOT, and we moved that over to segment 1 and 2, which was originally allocated to help out this area, but it made it a little bit cleaner to move the money from MoDOT on 1 and 2 and get that part spent. So it's savings on your all side, but if you come back to this project, you can get funded.
Yeah.
That's roughly $800,000.
Is that flag Corten steel?
Looks like it.
Is that flag Corten steel?
Yeah, that,
So Larry, from a veteran standpoint, customer standpoint, how do they feel about the flag not being red, white? Does it make a difference?
I don't, in this, no, not goodness.
Okay.
I think, I'm really obviously leaning towards, the flag and the eagle and.
I'd rather see the eagle than the Branson board, I think, personally.
I'm looking at the
That looks so nice to hear.
big picture, this is $100 million plus project. And I'd sure like us to do a little bit more than a little bit less. At the end of the day, I think we all wish we would have done more. At least that's my opinion.
How the stoplights interact with that? I mean, how do you see
Eagle's
this?
eyes go from red to yellow.
Those are still gonna be in place, correct?
correct. So, yeah.
Crosswalks and all that, so it's kind of a little, in my mind, a little deceiving, not seeing what.
So if you look at the straight down version, there's your pole right there.
Yeah, but it doesn't give you that, in the front view, I don't believe, does it?
Right.
Well.
Right.
Want to be realistic about what people see.
How does it hang over on the left hand side there?
They did.
What I said.
But so.
Catch some.
Kettle bungee jump.
It is purely conceptual, trying to get like, hey, this is what we want, and then they go all the way down to the nitty gritty.
Thinking about.
Sure.
And the scale, like if there was a little person on there, that would be helpful. Cause that could be like a closer up
That's a
version,
great point.
right, to where it's a 3-foot eagle.
Oh,
Or
yeah.
a 5-foot flag, you know what I mean?
They didn't, unless they.
Strictly visual.
Yeah, it is visual based on the approval of the board.
So is it 12 feet in the air approximately? Do you have any idea?
I do not.
Okay.
I would say it's just by, if you go to number 3. I mean, if you look at the building behind it, and yeah, you're at an angle, it's at least a story, or could be a story.
One more story, yeah.
So 10 to 12 feet at least.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And I would imagine the very top on there is 15 to 18.
Okay.
So Billy, if you saw this big picture and that awning goes way out. What if it looked like that? I cut down the cost.
What are you asking?
So if he goes back to the picture,
Yeah, I see
the
it.
awning goes way out. But instead, if you shorten that awning down so it was just above your eagle and your flag,
It looks nice, I mean, yeah.
that'll cut down your costs.
Yeah, yeah. I think the question is, it's like what the mayor was asking, what is the difference between one versus the other? Because you don't know the cost, and if we're not talking about within the budget anyway, but you can see that as like the number one is most expensive, one was expensive. And yeah, you can cut some of those, or you can lower some of those, or whatever scale wise. I mean, just to build that eagles, it's not cheap, and so.
Yeah, I would imagine like Eagle, right, like they have a 7-foot wingspan, so I would assume it would at least be that big.
Well, when you look at the bar that's hanging out over the road, wouldn't you need a 13.5, 14 foot clearance?
Sure.
Yeah, if you have some.
Maybe more.
If, yeah.
That kind of gives you the scale.
Yeah, I'm not sure that overhang is necessary.
So the next step is for them to put some real prices to this, right?
It is to really narrow it to one and squeeze it even down some more, so, or get some more comments back from each of you, like we did last time, and say, hey, what we heard is we don't want to overhang this, right? And so we want to tighten up this, so we still want some, we definitely want the eagle, right? And so now you're starting to narrow some things down for them. Very good. It is, yes, it was designed to be lit. No water features.
No, he's not
I love water features at my own house. I
Yeah.
would never do it for
Yeah.
work.
I like 3 also.
I
That's
know.
where.
If it's really well lit up,
Mhm.
that might. Like a red, white and blue kind of light up or something.
I would think that those guys can probably get a pricing based on let's say you take 1 and 3,
Well, we just say,
This version is,
Correct.
because it's not, at this point here, they can get a pretty good general idea of what the cost is. If one versus the other, because if the number one is twice as much. And all of a sudden, what Kathy is saying, "Man, I like this one too, maybe we just do this, we forget about all the banding about, What I like about the first one, it almost ties into the segment 1 and 2. That's the difference. It has a lot of wow factor that's above the ground. And
Well,
the ribbon.
This one does with the ribbon too.
Yeah,
which
the
is
ribbon
nice.
is below. It's nice to notice. It look like somebody had an accident there and then left it there. But, well, I don't know, but the first one is really impressive because it's really, look at that. That's what I mean, look at that. That's that.
Well, you're a lot closer in the
Yeah.
view of this. if you
Yeah, that's
gotta
right.
consider.
That's probably,
And the Branson really clutters it because the letters over the stripes are really
Yeah.
pretty to see and read. So I would do 3 with the eagle instead of the Branson, and I think you're gonna have a real economical version that's gonna look nice.
that's probably more what we can afford probably.
Exactly. Because, I mean, even that upper, I think it's a cool idea, but it's a lot of clutter in an intersection, to Steve's point, where there's a lot going on already. So I think they did a really nice job in the third one of pulling in the theme from 1 and 2, using the Corten steel. It's just that the Branson doesn't work in front of it,
Eagle
We could do like a
but the eagle instead, that's,
flagpoles in the back, like each branch on service. We could do that. If you option 3 to save money, but then you add some height to it by doing the flagpoles.
That's a good
Navy,
idea.
Coast Guard.
That's a neat idea. Yeah.
sure, yeah, like flagpoles are on right around about $6,000 a piece.
How much?
5,000 to 6,000 a piece.
Yeah.
Even 3, if you got perspective, if you had the budget to us, 20% bigger. A bigger element there is going to be more impressive. There's no doubt at all. Talking, yeah, they don't know the height, what that is.
Yeah.
In my mind, you'd almost be better to go with something like this with the eagle. Make it as big as you can afford to make it. So it really does stand out. It's not look like somebody just stuck something in the corner.
Chuck, would it be appropriate for me to ask for
just a synopsis of what you all want through PAN, and then I can share that with the architects and designers. I think that makes sense.
What with this, were there any kind of plan to do any kind of landscaping? Would there be any like underbrush or trees?
Right, so.
So I mean, that's, I
That would
know that
be-
we're in an intersection, so we can't block point of view, but I think the question is. It makes a difference when you have. Flag all the way to landscape. I don't know what the plan on the landscape.
You know, the backside of that area right there would allow for trees without blocking much view of anything. Different than a lot of places on Highway 76, at least you've got some area to work with.
Yeah, do you feel like there's any kind of backfire in terms of the people that owns the building next behind it, there's all of a sudden there's a blocking view?
There's always stuff outside.
Yeah, because that is basically you're hiding that building, that thing is a big monstrous thing in front of their business.
We're bringing attention to that whole intersection and everything that's around it and improving property
People are
values, really.
gonna pull in and get out of their car for selfies and then want to buy a t-shirt and a t-shirt shop that's there, I think.
And the view is, you know, you're coming, most people, this view is coming from the west.
Yeah.
So it is not gonna be the first vision of
Oh, my
people,
goodness.
people seeing it. They're gonna be coming, so they're still gonna see that yellow building that they painted yellow to Mary Kellogg's unhappiness.
Yes.
So who owns that sign, the digital sign at that corner?
Lamar's, that's Lamar's sign, I don't know, I think, I'm sure they lease the property.
So basically, that's going away and everything like that.
This time.
Yeah.
We're in such
This
a
is the
thing.
opposite corner.
This is the opposite corner. This is the Walgreens corner.
Walgreens.
It's like an open, it looks like an open area, but there's about 5 million utilities. There's a lot of stuff going on in there.
You're gonna see it coming from the west, you're not gonna see it coming from the east, so.
When there's open land next to a road, there's usually.
It's interesting what she says, because from where the view that you're pointing at. Is, you know, it's typically most people are driving from the east to west, yeah. So it's on the side and it's almost like, you know, it's behind you and driving by. You would think if you wanted to be right there where that big sign is.
Well, you would, but that's not right.
Yeah.
We just gotta do it where we got the property.
Well, we'll work on it. You'll get some
Yes,
notes to
excellent.
Nicole and.
So the technical side of the intersection with the curbs and gutters and the lights that are there is at 90%, and it's awaiting some type of direction for this, because you still have cabinet boxes, you gotta figure out where to not necessarily hide, but move around in there, that control the signal, all of our stuff's in that corridor, so. Look forward to a written response and we'll get that turned back around, and if appropriate, we can bring them back online for this next meeting, next month, so.
I'm encouraged about the progress they made from first version.
Yes, they made a ton, so we directed them to continue to develop over this part here, and this is kind of like an add-on, of course, right? So very happy with where they're at.
If they could skew that a little bit, and face 76 more than it does the straight corner, would help that view coming from the east side there.
One other thing you might want to look at as well is coming from the west. They might want to throw in the backside of the monkey, because it is very visible and you don't want the backside of the monkey to be visible from, say, an eagle's head pointing or a wing. I'm just throwing it out there because you don't want to create a photo op that people are gonna just make fun of and everything else.
You would not believe how many people take pictures of the monkey from our parking lot. I mean, it is
Really?
unbelievable how many people take pictures of that.
Yeah. So you just know it's very visible.
There's a great angle,
Hold on.
great angle of him sitting on our side, so there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well noted.
Yeah, I've got it. I've got it.
Okay. Anything else?
We need to have is to have a mic next shot, if we pick one, are we going with the one of the number 3?
I would love, yeah.
Okay,
where we go.
are you asking us?
You can
fill in or?
He asked me to put a summary of input
Okay, yeah,
together, send action like I did last time.
Yeah.
But in the next,
I'm hearing
I'll
one.
copy all of
is-
you in case I miss something, but
Or we also like three potentially,
Yeah.
depending on cost
Okay, so.
differences.
And
And jazzing up three a little bit.
Okay.
road flags.
and then
Road flags.
if possible,
right, I got that.
can we do like a nighttime shot versus the daytime shot, what they look like in daytime versus at night? Because they have the ability to put lights in there to see if this is what it look like at night, this is what it look like at night.
Because all the utilities underneath, is that gonna cause any challenges with the lighting?
Lighting, no, but maybe the pole, if we do the big above ground poles, that's gotta go down a ways for foundation, so that might be another reason to lean towards three maybe, I don't know. Figure it out, yeah, Michael?
Yep. No problem. We'll share that back to them and then, bring them on. Sounds like we can get some there on the see.
You got enough direction then? And,
Yep.
I believe so, and I will copy everyone with the summary.
okay, great. Next thing is any introduction of any new business? None, zero, zilch. Awesome. Okay, then entertain a motion for adjournment.
So much. Second.
Good, first and second. All those in favor, you can either stand up and walk away, sign off your computer, or whatever you want.
Thank you, guys.
All right, thanks everybody.
Thank you.
See ya.
Mine is because I assume if they're in the mail, they
Yeah,
already
everything
signed
like
them.
that.
with
Right.
the mail. Is that not a good assumption? And then what you said before about that being in the mail, that's just in the. It's embedded instead of on the box, like you just to two.
You're so busy.